meeting. I am Erica Rokes, and I'm here today as facilitator, as Kristen is out of the office. And if I can advance the slide here, then we'll dive in. Today, this is our agenda. We have Melissa Cerzo here from VTA's Transit-Oriented Development and Communities team, who will be giving an update on the Transit-Oriented Communities grant. Then Bernice is going to provide an update on the overall Phase 2 project, which will include some updates on the schedule and funding and referral that we received from the board. In addition, we'd like to take time to get your feedback on our current CWG meeting structure through a poll and open discussion. Following the Phase 2 section, I'll provide an update on the Santa Clara Design Review Committee. And then I will share an update on our early construction activities, and Matt will present on our recent community engagement efforts. Then we'll have space for CWG member report outs, and a reminder that your report out part of the meeting is your opportunity to share with the group how you've been sharing information and updates with the project, about the project with your communities, and what you've been hearing in the community for us to be aware of as well. We'll then conclude with some more information about the next round of CWGs. Before we get into the presentation, would the CWG members present today introduce yourselves just by stating your name and organization of the community that you represent? Alden, want to kick us off?
Sure. Alden Smith here. I'm with Holland Partner Group. We're developing Phase 1 of Gateway Crossings at the future Santa Clara station.
Great, thank you. I don't see Anna or David or Grace or Jack. I guess next I see Jonathan.
Oh, sorry, I had to unmute myself. I'm actually on my phone for audio. So I don't have. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. My name is Jonathan Evans, and I'm the president of the Old Quad Residents Association, which is the neighborhood in the area. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Todd?
Yep. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Todd Trickell. I'm with Hunter Partners here in Cupertino. We are the developers behind Colburn Highline, and we're partners with Alden and his team out at Gateway Crossings.
Great, thank you. As more folks join us, we can introduce other folks. Wanted to note the upcoming project-related meetings. We have our next planned Santa Clara Community Working Group meeting in September. And then below is a list of a variety of VTA board and VTA's BART Phase 2 Oversight Committee meetings, which is a subset of the VTA board that will be meeting over the next several months. In addition, and as a reminder, Kristen will send out email alerts for these meetings and other meetings that will be occurring. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Melissa to provide an update on the Transit-Oriented Communities grant.
Thanks so much, Erica. Good afternoon, early evening. I'm Melissa Cerzo, the program manager for Transit-Oriented Communities in VTA's Real Estate and Transit-Oriented Development and Transit-Oriented Communities Department. I lead the Transit-Oriented Communities program, and I'm also the TOC grant administrator. I really appreciate the time to talk to you all. All of you are local community builders, connectors, and champions, and we really value what you bring to VTA and this community working group. But before I get started, I want to define what transit-oriented communities are specifically for VTA. They are mixed use, mixed income, equitable communities within a half mile of transit stations where people of all ages and backgrounds can live, work, learn, shop, and play, and have all the necessities of life within a 15-minute walk, roll, bike ride of transit or transit. So we know that this is an approach with many multiplying benefits. It reduces the need to drive, it increases transit ridership, which reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and overall promotes health and well-being. So this is a grant that's about accelerating a shared vision of thriving communities, healthy and accessible places, and prosperity for all next to transit through the power of partnerships. I'm also joined here by my awesome teammate, Adriano, who's been working diligently with me on this. Adriano, if you wouldn't mind just placing the grant webpage in the chat, and that's vta.org/TOC grant. We'd released this grant on April 1st, and the deadline is actually next week. It's been about a 7-week open cycle. So we're excited to see our applicants starting to roll in, and yeah, we'll see more of them next week. So I just wanted to speak to the origins of this grant effort because it comes from the transit-oriented communities playbooks, and these were developed in 2018. And you may recall these playbooks provided detailed recommendations for each of the phase 2, the BART phase 2 stations, calling for collaboration between cities, VTA, and our communities to make the most out of this once in a lifetime investment. And so I wanted to extend our appreciation to the contributions you all made to that process, which was really formative for our current approach. So these playbooks, they helped us to really understand that transit infrastructure and TOD and transit-oriented communities, they have to address community resilience in order to fully extend the benefits across the whole of the community. And that includes protecting and producing workforce and affordable housing, as well as protecting and supporting small businesses. We're also building off of the momentum of what we did in the early 2000s, which is our former VTA Community Design and Transportation Program. We did utilize a grant at that time to incentivize awesome places next to transit. So on our next slide, it's just a bit of an overview of some of our highlight areas for our program. We could advance to the next slide, please. I think along with those playbooks, we have a board adopted VTA policy called the Transit Oriented Communities Policy, and it drives our strategy. So overall, what we've done on our own VTA sites is we've created mixed use, mixed income, partnership powered development. And so the goal for the Transit Oriented Communities program and the grant itself is to extend this approach to the half-mile area around transit stations so we can enhance VTA's investments, but then importantly, increase the share of our county's growth to areas of frequent transit. And in doing that, we can grow in a balanced, sustainable, and equitable way. And we also acknowledge, as I said, through the playbooks and through this policy, that transit-oriented development and transit-oriented communities can increase the market value of land and housing costs and increase the potential for displacement. So we want to take on displacement and enhance social and economic opportunity for existing and future residents. And we also want to see greater alignment with our regional policies, like the Metropolitan Transportation Commission's Transit-Oriented Communities Policy is setting up some new requirements, new policy standards for areas that are surrounding transit station areas. And those requirements will allow our jurisdictions to be continue to be eligible for certain types of MTC funding. Next slide, please. And so with that, our grant is seeking to fund projects that advance, you can keep going there, that advance equitable approaches, increases ridership, addresses equity, mitigates displacement. We also want to ensure equitable engagement, so culturally relevant, culturally competent practices that are context sensitive, and then also to really uplift community culture and identity. So on our next slide, we'll just talk a little bit about the program areas. We, in order to implement this vision that we have for the Transit-Oriented Communities program for stronger, healthier, safer, and more balanced communities next to transit, we have released our first cycle of the new Transit-Oriented Communities grant. It is $750,000 in competitive funding, open to nonprofits, communities, and local agencies. And I just want to pause there and say this is our first time offering such funding or funding to local nonprofits and community-based organizations. We are funding 4 program areas to spur innovative partnerships, which we consider to be cross-sectoral, cross-community in order to remove barriers and advance equitable transit-oriented communities. Special note here, we're targeting projects that are within a 1/2 mile of existing and future VTA light rail stations and commuter rail stations such as BART and Caltrain ACE Capital Corridor. So these are the 4 program areas: planning and policy implementation, which is about 50% of the fund. We would like to see projects that result in local agency plans and policies, regulations that implement sustainable and equitable communities around VTA and commuter rail stations. This one is specifically open for local agencies only. The next program area is community resilience, which is 25% of our funds. This is about lifting up the critical role of community-based organizations and increasing the staying power of the communities next to transit. So eligible projects could look like addressing technical support and capacity building for community-based organizations that are taking on affordable housing and especially transitioning towards housing preservation. This is a program area that's open only to 501c3 nonprofits. The third one here is education and engagement, which is 15% of our funds. We are interested in advocacy and support campaigns for transit-oriented communities policies, investments, and implementation, and also removing barriers to equitable, inclusive, and culturally relevant engagement practices. So eligible projects could look like hiring peer leaders or promotoras, if that is the context and relevant to your community, to guide decision-making in local projects. And this is a program area that's open to both community-based organizations and local agencies. And the last one here is placemaking, arts, and activation, which is 10% of our fund. And this is about enabling, inviting, and welcoming public spaces at our transit stations and other commuter stations. These are passenger environments for transit, and we know that enhancing them with publicly accessible art and cultural experiences that reflect the vibrancy of our local neighborhoods, local community history and identity, enlivens these places. So eligible projects could look like festivals right outside of our transit stations, could look like painted crosswalks or murals on the building walls facing transit. And this is open to both community-based organizations and local agencies. So to wrap things up, we released our grant April 1st. The deadline is next week. Can't believe it. Please check out our website, vta.org/TOC grant. We're so excited to see the impact of this grant, removing barriers to equitable transit-oriented communities, helping new community organizations to enable this vision together. And we're just excited to learn from new partners, community partners, for new pathways towards transit, increasing transit ridership, and just increasing our collective impact. So that concludes my presentation. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Melissa. Any questions for Melissa? All right. I know that Adriano dropped the link to the program in the website into the chat, so feel free to take a look there. Ryan, I see that you've joined us. Would you like to introduce yourself before we move to the next?
Yes, hi, Ryan Morfin, Senior Director of the San Jose Earthquakes.
Great, thank you. And now Bernice will give us the phase 2 update.
Great, thank you. You can go to the first slide. We have been very active preparing for raising visibility of the project and securing the grant that we're trying to get from the federal government. We had the Federal Transit Administration Region 9, that is the region of the federal arm that is serving our area. It's California and also includes Hawaii. So they got to get a tour of the alignment and see where the future downtown station is going to be. We also had the Metropolitan Transportation Commission do a walking tour. They were here for a conference a couple of weeks ago, and also got a little virtual tour of the project and got to stand where the future station will be. So just really trying to connect with all of our partners that will help us secure funding or already have helped us secure funding in the situation with MTC. Next slide, please. This is our program schedule. You've seen this this graph before, but just really want to call attention to that early works construction 2024. As you are all in close proximity to the Santa Clara station, we began mobilizing out there, I think it was about a week and a half ago, and that is the start of it all. So you are part of history as we've begun the early works for the largest public infrastructure project in the counties in VTA's history. That early construction works will commence until the arrival of the TBM. That takes a total, we ordered that, I think it was back in November, and that takes about 14 to 16 months to manufacture. Then they have to disassemble it, ship it, and then reassemble it at this site we're preparing, and that will ultimately be the launch site. So we're anticipating more significant construction happening in the later 25-26 timeframe. That major construction will go through approximately 2034. And then that is when we do our system testing and commissioning. That is when we integrate with the BART system, and they actually train their operators and they make sure the new connects with the existing. And we call it revenue service, but that's actually passenger service in 2037. There is a 2039 date that is out there. When we execute the grant agreement with the federal government, they add a contingency period. And what that is basically 2039 is our deadline for delivering the project. Like, that is what our grant agreement, we are obligated to have the project delivered by then. So just so if you see both dates, that's the difference between the two. Next slide, please. So some really exciting news, and I don't think it's on the next slide. Maybe it is on the next slide, but we have been in this process with the FTA, and there are various phases and requirements to get the federal funding. There is a significant amount of oversight. We have to submit thousands of pages of documentation of who's involved with the project, how we're delivering the project, what's our budget plan. So we just submitted some entry to get into the next phase, and then come July we will be going into the next phase and submitting our application for that grant agreement, and hope to execute that with the Federal Transit Administration by the end of the year under this current administration. And exciting news was we got a $500 million allocation that would be part of our overall grant request. And I think I have the amounts of what we're requesting on one of the next slides, but huge nod that the federal government is supporting this project. They see it as viable. They see the merit of it, and they intend to put us through this process. So next slide, please. This is our path to the full funding grant agreement. All of the things in the green are things that we have already done and completed. As I mentioned, we will be submitting for that grant agreement in July. Prior to that, we advance to the next stage, and that's engineering, when we submit further design. And that November date prior to the end of the year under this current administration, getting that full funding grant agreement of utmost importance, because depending on the situation and outcomes of the election, if we have that executed, there has never been a situation under any administration where the terms of the grant agreement were not implemented. So once we have the grant agreement, we are assured of getting the dollar amount that's agreed to and getting the allocations that are agreed to in the time frame that's agreed to. So that's why it's so important to lock it in. The FTA has never defaulted on a grant agreement in its history of this program. Next slide, please. Just wanted to share a little bit more about where those dollars are going. If you look at the circular kind of pie chart, you will see on the bottom is all of our local, regional, and state funding. That $4.5 billion plus is what county voters voted for in 2000 for the 2000 Measure A and 2016 Measure B. just really demonstrating how much support there is for the project. The other state and regional funds comprise, almost $2 billion. And then we have an ask right now for just under 6.3 billion from the federal government. There is kind of a criteria line that it basically needs to be under 50%. So, and the cost, the way that the Federal Transit Administration, they look and we report the cost based on these cost categories. And as you can see, a significant amount is for the actual tunnel and trackway, more so than the actual stations. So almost 3 billion for the track and 2 billion for the stations. The other significant expense is all the design and engineering work that goes into the project. So total is that $12.7 billion that we're at right now. Next slide, please. I already announced the big to-do, but yes, we did get that allocation for $500 million. Like I said, that is really a huge nod. We got other demonstrations of support in getting a notice of intent prior, and what that did was allow us to incur specific costs to advance design to purchase a tunnel boring machine. But this really is like an intent that they intend to fund the project and have already advanced one allocation. So once we get the grant agreement, the first allocation would be for the FY24 year of $500 million. So the next 6 months, as I said, are super critical. Some of you have expressed willingness to support us in raising visibility and support for the project, and thank you for that. We need our congressional delegation to hear about how much this county and contingency wants this project and needs this project and all the benefits. So anything that you can help us do to get that FFGA at the end of the year is critical to us being able to advance the project. This is kind of the make or break year right now. So the important messages that we are relaying, and I think a chat just came through. I couldn't read it fast enough, but we'll respond to that as soon as we finish this and answer any questions. But as I mentioned, 2024 is the year. It is the critical year for us to get that funding. It's a significant amount of funding. It'll be one of the largest grants. I think it will be like the largest grant this year that the FTA would be through the New Starts program executing. It really is important that VTA delivers on the commitment that we've made to the voters who voted 2 times to tax themselves for the initial funding, plus once again to tax themselves for the 2008 Measure B that will be for the operations. The project, as we all know, if anybody's driven, I know there's a lot of remote work these days, but I'm telling you, being on the road, going down to South County on a Wednesday evening is probably the worst it's ever been. So this project really does help protect our environment and really relieve some of the congestion and give many of us a transit alternative to loop around the bay all the way. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Bernice, hold on one second.
Equitable transit. VTA is advancing the Eastridge to Light Rail to BART connector project that is going to break ground, I believe, on June 7th. That really connects the culturally diverse and a little bit economically challenged East San Jose residents. So really is providing equitable access to jobs, healthcare, and education, affordable housing for diverse workforce as part of the planned transit-oriented development. There's up to 60 million square feet of commercial and residential development around station areas. And you just heard about the transit-oriented communities that Melissa was speaking to, an important element because it's really how you plan for and around the stations that really contributes to the successful and utilization of the system. For every dollar invested into this project, it results in $5 of economic growth. And this project will create approximately 75,000 jobs, both direct jobs in the construction and then all those other support roles, such as manufacturing material, trucking material, and even those who are going to be working at the sandwich shops that are going to be feeding these individuals out on the job sites. So just many, many benefits. As I said, this is the make or break year. So if any of you have connections, if you work for a firm that has any government affairs individuals that can assist you, we will help you with letter templates, any materials, but really important to contact your congressional delegation to share your support for the project and how it would be an important milestone for you in your lives here and careers here in Santa Clara County. Share the project updates that we share with you to your network. We're going to talk a little bit more today about really how we can make the CWGs more meaningful for both those participating and those that you're relaying information to. So really looking at how we can engage you and be really respectful of your time and efforts. And then asking you to share things that we share with you and repost project information on social media platforms just to really help us raise visibility. There are many people, I think, in the county that don't realize that we've started doing work at the West Portal. So just really looking to you all to help us spread that word. And I believe that's my next slide, and hand it back over to you, Erica.
Yeah, I think next you're going to go into the board referral, but I think this is a good time to pause for questions. There's a couple in the chat that we'll start with while folks are thinking. Jonathan asks, what counts as the project being delivered? Full fare service active?
Say that again.
So I think you were talking about when the project is being delivered, and I think he's trying to ask like what's considered the project being delivered? Is it when revenue service is in operation, when there's
Yes, it's when passenger service begins. The construction does not designate, like we had construction completed on phase 1, but our actual opening was in June, even though construction was basically completed like in 2018 timeframe. So it is when the first riders begin riding and we start collecting fares and serving passengers, then it's completed.
So we, for clarification, so that means like by 2039, we should expect like, we should be able to jump on the BART and get to wherever, and the project will be done. So.
2037.
Oh, 2037?
Yeah,
Right.
The 2039 is the added contingency that the FTA added on, but the schedule that we're designing to and right now aspiring to build and complete and have revenue service begin is 2037.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I've been trying to remind people that, hey, it's coming, and so just want to make sure I had the dates right. Thanks.
Sure.
And Jack, thank you. I'm glad you've been able to join us. Do you want to introduce yourself? We'll see if others have questions.
Hi, this is Jack with South Bay Historic Railroad Society. Glad to be here today.
Glad you can make it. Any other questions for Bernice before she moves into the next section? All right.
I had a second question in the chat. You mentioned like the
I'm sorry.
Cost was I think about $2 billion. I was curious, like, do you have a breakdown of like how much of that is like for each of the stations? Like, is Dearborn a higher budget than like that Clara or the downtown?
We do. I think we do have estimates for the cost of each station, and we'll have to get those to you. It's not how the FTA tracks it like collectively, but we do have cost estimates that we're working on for each station based on the current level of design.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was just kind of curious what the breakdown is between each of them. So, yeah.
So at our board meeting now 2 weeks ago, we received what is called a board referral from 3 of our board of directors. And basically a board referral like directs staff to take some action in some way. And this referral doesn't have any direct direction to the Santa Clara station, but did have some direction on sort of the design and some other access at the other stations. So we, as part of a value engineering exercise and some direction from what we could put for what we call the back of house facilities, which are like the needed facilities to make a station operational. That's the equipment, communications, ventilation. We, based on input and feedback we got from both the future operator, from the fire marshals, that we moved some of those facilities above ground. We got some less than support from some of the community members, and we have been instructed to kind of look at what really needs to be above ground and what could we put back below ground. So we're following up and doing an analysis on that. At the downtown San Jose station, there has been a desire, and we have done numerous studies about an entrance on the south side of Santa Clara Street. There is a lot of challenges with that because of the historic designation of many of those buildings. The current downtown station meets the capacity, but we are going to work with the city of San Jose and look at the possibility in separate from the project that we are seeking the funding on right now. So we'll have to identify, we'll have to see what could be possible and what the funding would be in separate from this current project for a southern entrance at downtown San Jose. And then the same situation at the Diridon station, looking at what absolutely has to be above ground on those required operational facilities and what could go below ground. And then last but not least, related to this group, is the process that our community working groups work in. We got some feedback, or I think some of the board members got some feedback from some other community working group members. They would like to go full in person all the time. We're going to do a little bit of surveying on that because we really want to tailor these to what will be most desired and convenient for those to participate, because ultimately the more participation, the more effective we are as a group. And then we will present that information based on your feedback to us about how we might sort of adapt the community working groups and how you're all engaged. I am going to hand it over to Erica. Are you going to lead the poll?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
So now we're going to go through some poll questions, and then we'll open it up for additional discussion. So Monica is going to assist with pulling a poll up on your screen. So the first question is, would you like to resume in-person CWG meetings? Follow-up questions talk about the frequency and such, but for awareness. So this is for the CWG members to complete the poll. Looks like we have one person. There we go. Now we're starting to get him in there. Okay, the next question is, if you would like in-person CWG meetings, how often would you like to attend? You'd commit to attend in person for every meeting, committing to attend every other meeting, committing to attend one meeting once a year in person, or if you prefer to meet virtually, keep meeting virtually over Zoom, or to have an option between in-person or virtual. All right. Then the next question. I like the current meeting format with staff facilitation, yes or no? Or I would prefer a shift in meeting format towards external facilitation, are the next couple of questions. And then the next question, would you be interested in a pre-meeting networking time with CWG members, project staff, and invited presenters? This could happen in a virtual setting or in the in-person setting. And then would you like to review project documents prior to the presentation to the VTA Board of Directors meeting? Yes or no? And then I just want to open it up if there's any other feedback to provide on the CWG meetings. If anyone has any other thoughts that they'd like to share here with the group? All right. I think now that
Well, that was close on the poll result.
yeah, so is everyone able to see the results now? Guess nobody would like to resume in person. Okay. Folks, a couple folks would prefer to meet virtually on Zoom, and 5 out of 6 folks said they prefer to have an option between in-person and virtual. I guess the follow-up question that it would be helpful for us to understand, if you'd like to have an option, what frequency would be desired for the in-person option for every meeting? If we were going to have a hybrid option, since that seemed what's most preferred, how frequently would folks want to come in? You know, a couple times a year, potentially. Right now we meet 4 times a year.
So Erica, just my 2 cents on this, if you don't mind, is like, I think if there's a reason for us to get together in person, i.e. there is a model that you want us to look at that we can't do online, that we need to, you know, sit around a table and look at a model, or if we need to go in and if we want to do a site tour and, you know, actually physically walk where the station's going to be, or walk where the yard's going to be, or we can walk Coleman Highline, or to do something that, you know, has some meaning to get us, you know, out of behind our computers and together, then I would say if that happens 4 times a year, then great, but let's just not do it to do it, is my opinion.
Any other thoughts from anyone else?
Yeah, I appreciate Todd's comments, because I share them as well. I think that this works. I mean, if this is mostly just communication for information, I think Zoom can work pretty well. I think in person would be great. It could be great, but only if like we had some other reason, if we had more, you know, like a design or something, because it is a challenge to get to places in person. I know there was one meeting that was downtown, and there was just no way I was able to participate in that. I was not participating in that one because we couldn't make downtown at like middle of the day. It just was not possible with my schedule.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and Erica, I would, and I can't see people raising their hands, so my apologies again, but I would say the way these meetings are presented, it's very formal in the sense that you and Bernice are going through your very defined agenda. If you want to open it up to more input and collaboration, people, and I know people are on mute because they're trying to be respectful of, but you should allow for more kind of free-flowing interaction versus like just taking questions at the end. And once again, I know you want to get through the information, but you also want to have collaboration and input. So there might be a way to potentially change how the information is presented to allow for more collaboration.
You know,
Yes,
that's
some. Go ahead, Bernice.
There's something that we just talked about was like starting off the meeting, maybe before we even kind of get into like starting off with sort of like either having a time, either it's part of a format or 15-20 minutes before, where we can just sort of talk about how things are going, what you're hearing,
right.
what, you know, or getting your input right before we go into any kind of presentation, just having a networking time maybe, and that can still be virtual. And
sure.
But just more of a, what do I want to say, an opportunity for us to get more feedback and kind of not even start things off in a sense, right? To like allow the members to kind of like set the stage for like the beginning of the meeting.
That's correct. It's more informal.
Appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. Folks like the current format, mostly with the staff facilitation, and we just talked about the pre-meeting networking time. Some folks are interested, others not, and unanimously, everyone is interested in reviewing the documents prior to them going to the board. So we appreciate your feedback there. Any other questions or thoughts on this before we move to the next topic from anyone else? All right. We'll go ahead and move on. So just wanted to give an update on the Santa Clara Design Review Committee. I know we talked about it previously. We've been continuing to evaluate the station design considerations and providing feedback for the design team to incorporate further. So currently, 2 different options are being evaluated. I got a feature wall plaza with a bow truss canopy, as you can see on the left. And then we have an orchard pavilion option that's been a little bit more refined since what you see here on the screen, that is also being evaluated, that the design review committee is looking at. So we will be circling back together tomorrow with the design review committee on further feedback, further review of the option on the right that's newer, that's a little bit refined, the orchard pavilion option, and then we'll be determining the path forward. So as we look into the next few months, we'll be having another design review committee meeting in June, and then we'll have some community engagement over the summer. We'll be sure to let you all know about in-person pop-up event engagement, as well as virtual online engagement that we'll let you know about. And then we'll have a meeting again in the fall timeframe to report out on that engagement, and then future further engagement. Any questions on the design review committees? Yes, Todd.
Yes, I have a question. My hand is raised. So obviously you've shifted your main entrance from the middle, I'm gonna call it mid-block, out to Brokaw, and for a multitude of reasons, and none of them are wrong. But at what point do you lock in? Because given those changes, as I've shared with you before, we're looking at redesigning or reimagining phase 2 at Gateway Crossings. So at what point could I sit down with your design review team or your architect or whoever it is in order to kind of collaborate a bit on what I'm trying to do on my side to make sure that my project, not from a civil perspective, but more from an, architecture perspective and from a ingress egress perspective, all kind of syncs up?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So anytime from now moving forward would be the time. So basically we started this design review committee process in the fall of last year, as we had found out that we were able to change the station configuration for it to all be, at grade 1 level for the passenger experience. So since then, the design team has advanced the design to 60% to include in the package that's going into the entry into New Start's engineering funding path. And so we now have the design, quote, locked in for what's being advanced through. And so as we're working through these stations, if it's more aesthetics focused, then kind of through the summer and kind of at the end of the summer, we'll have a good sense of where we're landing. But we could start those conversations as soon as you all are ready.
Okay. I'm bringing on my architect right now to re-engage on our side of the fence. So that might make some sense.
Yeah, sounds great.
I'll follow up with you.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Now I'm going to cover some early construction activities. As Bernice mentioned, and we mentioned last time, we have now begun some early construction activities at the West Portal. To orient you for the graphic at the top of the screen that we've seen before, Brokaw Road's on the right. North is kind of to the right of the page. Coleman Avenue is toward the bottom of the image that's cut off. You can see PayPal Park there at the bottom as well, toward the bottom of the screen. And 880 is just to the left off of the screen. So this is VTA's Newhall Yard property, where the early construction activities have begun. Site grading has begun, which those of you that are close may feel some vibrations and noise during the day as they're doing the grading of the site. We're having ongoing construction coordination and updates with the contractor and the stakeholders, meeting with various folks here. Lots of you here on the call today. And the work that's happening now is what we talked to you about over the last couple of years, and we had a public meeting on in early spring 2023 and went to both city councils for approval in June of 2023. So at that time, the document and what we talked about is the next 2 years worth of work. And so what I'm talking about today is just the first month or two of what's going to happen over the next 2 years. So what's happening now, the work happening now will occur between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. And when there are construction deliveries and hauling of material that's needed, the hauling hours will be 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. With most activities happening between Monday and Friday and Saturdays as needed. This is a reminder of all the things that will be happening in this 2-year period that we've talked about over time. So the site access is really what's being focused on, of what's called out here in particular in the beginning phases. They'll be providing the access to the site, building the interior roads, doing the grading of the site, and then eventually some of these other things will begin to occur starting later in the summer. The West Portal tunnel boring machine preparation, the supportive excavation in the green color there, where the West Portal, the entrance into the tunnel will be, where then the tunnel boring machine that Bernice mentioned earlier that we ordered, which we'll talk about in a minute, will be assembled and then launched from. The area in dark blue, which is the tunnel lining factory, where the concrete lining segments that will make up the interior of the tunnel will be fabricated, and then they'll be stored in the area in purple. And so we've got to prepare the ground in the area in purple to store those 40,000 pound each segments. 9 segments make up one ring of the tunnel. In addition, we'll be constructing the grout plant in the area in brown, and the excavated materials being bin, where all the excavated materials which will come out of the tunnel in the next phase will be stored, but the construction of the bin itself will occur during this phase, this 2-year phase of work. So initially, some of the initial things I mentioned: grading, the exit and entry points. There's wheel washing and water trucks and street sweeping activities that are occurring. We'll be installing fencing, the security and signage and striping, the temporary offices and parking, and paving of some areas. There's some images here of what fence removal and installation will look like. In addition, the contractor has environmental commitments and requirements to follow. So I wanted to highlight a couple of those here for you. So they're following measures recommended by the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. So there's going to be watering trucks when they're doing grading that will water the dirt. They'll have street sweepers continuously. They have the wheel wash, which is on the image on the top, for trucks as they leave the site. There's a signage posted around with our hotline phone number. If there are any issues, you can call. Water is applied daily to the grading operation and to the stockpiled soil before it's removed off site. Dust intensive activities are suspended during high winds, and haul trucks are moistened or covered to prevent dust emissions. And part of after the fence is installed, then we'll also be installing screening. And this is an example of what part of it will look like. We worked with Earthquakes to have some co-branded screening adjacent to the practice field in their area there. So that will be installed around the site as well. In addition, as Bernice mentioned, VTA purchased the tunnel boring machine in November of 2023. The $76 million TBM will be one of the largest ever built at 53 feet in diameter. We had an official tunnel boring machine naming contest. Thank you to those of you if you submitted entries. And so we're going through an evaluation period, and we'll be announcing the winning name this summer. As we're now into construction, just wanted to provide some additional information on noticing what our team does. Our team gathers the 4 W's to communicate to the community. what, which is a summary of the construction activity taking place, where, which is an understanding of where the work location in the community, including a map, when, highlighting the days and times of the work, and a note if needed, if and when the work will take place during the weekend and or nighttime, and a section of what to expect. Here's an example of a construction notice that was recently published and put on our project website. At times, depending on the activity, it's also printed and distributed to nearby residents and businesses to the work area and available at the tabling events that we have to update the community on what's happening. Here's some information on how we electronically distribute the construction notices as well. If you've signed up for updates, you will get the updates via email through MailChimp. Oh, looks like we've got some overlapping problems here. We'll fix that before we send out the slides. To the CWG members, to neighborhood associations, and everyone who's signed up for project information. So if you haven't signed up, I encourage you to do so. We also post on our website and distribute via social media. Physical flyers are distributed to businesses and residents within 1,000 feet radius of the construction work activity. We also sent out the postcard over there on the right saying that construction has started. Did any of you receive that postcard?
I did.
Yay.
I live in the area.
Yeah. Additionally, depending on the activity, we collaborate with VTA's transit operations team to ensure that activities that could impact the transit riders are communicated in advance and reflected on their apps. So that's not intended to be the case at this near the Santa Clara station, but that could potentially be the case at other locations. And that is the early construction activity update. Happy to take any questions if anyone has any before Matt dives into community engagement.
Is there a way to, maybe I should just follow up with you directly, Erica, about what you have for our address and contact info?
Yes, we can make sure that you all get into the system.
Great, thank you.
Yes. All right. Matt, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Erica. Next slide. Okay, to kick off our community engagement efforts, we'll start off with a report on our tabling engagement activities in the community. We're really excited to share that over the past 5 months that we were able to engage with more than 1,400 people at 9 outreach events. So that included events like the Lunar New Year Festival, the Transit Day at Meta and Facebook, which was very successful, the Spring Train Show, Santa Clara University Powwow event, among many other events. And as you can see, we've been engaging with all of our communities across the project area and are excited for additional engagement opportunities to come. So if you have any event suggestions to educate the public about the project, please send your suggestions our way as we're looking for events continuously. Next slide. Taking a look at the month ahead for upcoming community engagement, VTA will be conducting a few tabling events at these upcoming events that happen to be on the same day of June 8th. Our East Bay Regional Connector Project groundbreaking event that we'll be attending, and then also the DD Portugal event also on June 8th. So we encourage you to let your communities know about these opportunities to learn more about the BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 project and to help spread the word. Next slide. We're also excited to share that we will soon be launching VTA's new project-specific website for the BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 project in late May or early June. The site will include some project information, project benefits messaging, share VTA's transparency commitment, and then also host some project FAQs, a resource library, and much more. The screen image to the right is really a sneak peek into VTA's new site design, but we'll be launching that very soon and sharing more with you on that. Phase 2 of the project website is slated to launch in the late June timeframe, where we will be featuring more of our construction information for that site. So you'll have construction information and updates, business resource program, community outreach, and a few other items. A few cool interactive features will also be implemented into the site, which includes an interactive construction map that will feature updated construction activity information for anybody that comes to the site. They can see where our construction activities are taking place. And then on the business resource program for the Eat Shop local program, we'll have participating businesses on a map to highlight all of the small businesses, the shops, the restaurants, and services who participate in that program. Next slide. Taking a quick look at our ongoing and upcoming activities for spring and summer. As noted, our early works construction activities has begun at the New Hall Yard and Maintenance Facility for the West Portal. We'll be starting our design review committee meetings for our downtown Diridon and 28th Street Little Portugal stations in late spring. We'll also have a soft launch of our business resource program in late June, starting with many of the businesses that are in the Santa Clara area where the early works construction has begun. And then following our DRC meetings, we will have we'll be conducting online and in-person engagement to gather input on our stations, the look and feel design elements. So all of that is to come. Next slide. And as Erica had touched on before, VTA's official tunnel boring machine naming contest recently closed about 2 weeks ago on April 29th. We presented the community with the contest entry criteria to name the TBM with a female name that is of significance to the Santa Clara community. We're excited to share that we've received over 732 names that were submitted as part of the contest. And typically these TBM have historically hosted a female name to present the project with good luck and safety for its workers. So that's what we're doing here. And into the time to come, a TBM naming committee comprised of BART Silicon Valley team members and city staff will make a final naming recommendation for our VTA GM for her consideration. And we're targeting the upcoming VTA board meeting on June 6th to make an announcement on the winning name. So really excited about that. Next slide. Oop, next slide. There we go. And as many of you may be aware, or likely are aware, VTA will be presenting its invitation-only West Portal groundbreaking event on June 14th from 10 a.m. to noon at our future New Hall Yard and Maintenance Facility location where the West Portal is. Elected officials, project stakeholders, and project partners will be invited to this private stakeholder event. To thank you for your continued effort as a valued CWG member, we've extended an invitation to you for this event, so you should be getting that soon. You should have had a calendar hold on your calendars for it. And if you'd like any additional information, please feel free to reach out to us. The official invitation should be sent out very, very soon, and we look forward to your attendance at this key milestone event. Please be sure to RSVP and come to the event. And as a side note, we will have a larger community celebration that is open to the public when the TBM machine is assembled and on site and ready to launch in the near future. Next slide. And as mentioned prior, VTA is excited to share that its business resource program will be soft launched in late June. The program will include the following elements. We'll have a BRP section on the new project website, and we'll have a big social media push to really get that program out there. But we'll be canvassing the community, the business community that is. And so we'll have a new canvassing kit with a variety of collateral detailing our programs with opt-in and sign-up forms. We'll have a business liaison team to hit the ground running, if you will, to conduct business-to-business canvassing and our outreach efforts. And some of our launch elements will include a media launch of the business resource program, a small business task force presentation of the program and its collateral, as a task force has been working with VTA on this program all the way along to be the voices for small businesses in the community. And then we'll also have a business community workshop, a business community focused meeting to really promote the program directly to the businesses and provide them with information, answer their questions. And it's likely to start off in the Santa Clara community first due to our early construction work starting at the West Portal. And then we will be launching the technical assistance program of our business resource program this coming fall, and that will include our community-based organization engagement, which is really exciting because that's going to have all of the training elements, technical elements of our program to really help small businesses thrive. And then we'll be conducting a CBO survey to see what resource programs are out there that community-based organizations can offer small businesses in the community with VTA partnership, obviously, and a business outreach survey to query the small businesses on their needs during construction. So all of this meets together to really help the small businesses. And finally, the highly anticipated DFA Direct Financial Assistance Program will launch slated for 2025 with the commencement of major construction efforts. And I think one more slide here, one more slide. Okay, and to highlight our opportunities to keep in touch with the project and get construction updates, we have our interactive engagement efforts. As a reminder, we encourage you to stay involved with the project and learn more. We have numerous events throughout the year, from tabling events to community meetings to CWG meetings and webinars. Our BSV 2 team is out there to conduct a number of presentations in the community at local community group meetings, neighborhood associations, and many more. So we're out and about with our Speakers Bureau program. And then resources, VTA has its project email and hotline that's going to be available to the community to reach out directly to the agency for any concerns or issues during construction or any other issues that might need to be mitigated. And then we also post information to our social media platforms through blogs and our website. So there's a lot of ways to stay connected. And that concludes my section. If there are any questions, be happy to answer anything.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Matt?
I've got a quick question, if I may.
Of course.
Of course. So I heard that there are 9 tabling events, 1,400 interactions in a community, I think I heard that correctly, in a county in which we have 3 million residents. It just seems like when we're talking about marketing, we need to have data and we need to have analytics. And it seems like 1,400 interactions is not going to move the needle. You need to be having tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of impressions on the residents of this county in order to change the viewpoint of maybe this project A and B to keep them educated. So I would just encourage us collectively to try to figure out a good vehicle to do that. And I certainly think social media is one of them, as we all know, but you know, I think about this idea that all of your VTA buses that are driving around this valley all have placards on them in which you could be branding this project. And then the other concept, I think I read in the paper that old BART trains, or maybe old BART cars somewhere, people are buying them and converting them and doing things with them. If there was a way to go get a BART car and place it somewhere in a prominent location at San Jose City Hall, at Santa Clara City Hall, you can move it around, I don't know. But to raise awareness where kids could go in and check it out and sit down and get excited about it. I mean, many kids here in San Jose have never ridden on BART in their lives. What a cool opportunity to almost like be this reinforcing, visual that people can be reminded, like, oh, hey, this thing is happening. Oh, this is why I've been paying extra sales tax for the last 10 years, whatever it might be. So it's just a concept.
Yep. And Todd, thank you for that comment. And I'd just like to point out that our tabling events, even though it was 1,400 direct impressions, if you will, with interactions with people in the community, that tabling event task that we have, that's a very small portion of the outreach program that we do have. We have social media, we have our website, we have community meetings, we have a number of initiatives as part of our business resource program and also our upcoming construction outreach program that will enable us to interact even deeper into the community. But thank you for that comment. And we'll be also looking for some additional opportunities out there. So if you have any ideas, we would love to partner with you and kind of workshop those ideas and stuff like that. But thank you for that comment.
You're welcome.
Any other thoughts from anyone else? All right. We will move into our CWG member report out. We'd love to hear from you. So I open the floor up. If there's anyone who has anything to share about what you're hearing in your community or what the concerns or questions or thoughts are from folks, we'd love to hear from you.
This is Jack at South Bay. Just want to pass on, if you guys want to put on another event on a Saturday or something, you can always come down to Depot down in Santa Clara and put on an event down there. We're always there.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that.
Thank you for that. That we'll follow up with you on that. Thank you.
Okay.
Jonathan.
I just wanted to mention that tonight is the second meeting of the precise plan for the transit-oriented communities around the Santa Clara train station. So if anyone's interested, it's starting at 6 p.m. tonight at City Hall.
Great, thank you for the reminder, Jonathan. So the project is the hole in the middle of the donut, and the Santa Clara station area plan is the donut around the station of what will be evaluated in the plan. Alden.
Sure. I think most people on this call are familiar with this timeline, but just a reminder that we are rapidly approaching receiving TCO on our first residential building at Gateway Crossings, targeting end of June, and getting first residents moving in July. So as we kind of get more and more people on site, we'll kind of loop them in to this process. And Erica, I might follow up with you separately about maybe getting someone from our residential side on these meetings as well.
Definitely, I think that'd be a great addition once you've got occupants, for sure.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, we can talk about that further.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other thoughts from anyone else? All right. Thank you for making time for us today for our CWG meeting. Just wanted to share what our next steps are for the next meeting that we have calendar currently. And the next meeting is Thursday, September 12th. So wishing you a fabulous summer, where we'll have a phase 2 update, talk more on the latest in the early construction activities that will be happening, the community engagement, and hear more about station area planning and adjacent developments. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate your time.
Of course, thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.